Hare Krishna, Jai Sri Radhe. In the present state of a very haphazard and hazy knowledge of ancient history, it might sound fantastic and foolhardy to mention that ancient England was a Hindu country and that it still has traces of towns with Sanskrit names and some Hindu temples. But there is plenty of evidence of many kinds to support this conclusion. Let us take an extract from the Encyclopedia Britannica as our starting point. In volume 21, on pages 275 to 277, the 1969 AD edition records information about an ancient site in England called the Stonehenge. The encyclopedia notes, quote, the Stonehenge, a circular setting of large standing stones surrounding an earthwork about 8 miles or 13 kilometers north of Salisbury, Wiltshire, England, was built during the late Neolithic to early Bronze Age between 1800 to 1400 BC. Among the earliest references is a legend that the stones were magically transported from Ireland. This legend perhaps enshrines a folk memory of the bringing from Pembrokeshire of the blue stones, which form part of the monument. The supposed connection of Stonehenge with the Druids has held the public imagination since the 17th century. The monument consists of a number of structural elements, mostly circular in plan. On the outside is a circular ditch, broken by an entrance gap on the northeast with a bank immediately within it. Inside the bank is a ring of 56 pits known after their discoverer as the Aubrey holes. Between these and the stones in the center are two further rings of pits, now invisible on the surface, known as Z and V holes. The stone setting consisted of two circles. For instance, the outer of sarsen, that is tertiary sandstone, and the inner of bluestone, and two horseshoes of uprights, the outer of sarsen and the inner of bluestone. The outer circle and the outer horseshoe being clamped by stone lintels. Additional stones include the altar stone lying on the axis southwest of the center, the slaughter stone inside the entrance of the earthwork, two station stones just within the bank on the northwest and southeast, and the hill stone standing on the avenue outside the entrance. Cremated remains form a cemetery of about 30 burials. The hill stone, 35-ton block of sarsen 16 feet or 4.9 meter high, stands outside the entrance of the earthwork, but not on its axis of symmetry. West of it, astride this axis, four large post holes probably represent a former timber gateway. The entrance of the earthwork in Stonehenge too was joined to the river Avon, about 2 miles to the east by the avenue of processional way marked by parallel banks and ditches. The entrance of the earliest setting of blue stones was aligned approximately upon the sunrise at the summer solstice. The visible surfaces of the 30 feet high stones have been laboriously dressed smooth. The structures may be assigned to the earlier half of the 16th century BC, broadly confirmed by a radiocarbon estimate giving a probable range of 2000 to 1400 BC. It is generally and probably rightly assumed that Stonehenge was constructed as a place of worship, but the nature of the religion it served must remain conjectural. The solstitial alignment of the axis of symmetry of the sarsen structure means Stonehenge 3A has long been recognized. In 1963 AD, the existence of additional alignments on significant risings and settings of the sun and moon were suggested independently by C.A. Newham in England and by G.S. Hawkins in the United States. These suggestions undoubtedly reinforce the popular belief that Stonehenge was a temple for sky worship. but should be considered with caution since most Christian churches are likewise astronomically oriented. Hawkins also suggested that the circle of 59 Aubrey holes could have been used as a counting device for predicting significant risings of the moon and eclipses of the moon and sun. The possibility cannot be denied, unquote. So, all these things have been mentioned in Encyclopedia Britannica in volume number 21 on pages 275 to 277. So let us continue our discussion. The significant points that emerge from the above extract are that the stone structure called the Stonehenge is a temple, that it could be as old as 2000 BC, that the avenue starting from its entrance lead to Avon River about 2 miles away, that the temple has stones with highly polished surfaces, that there is also a slaughter stone, that the temple was connected with the river by a processional route, that at the temple entrance was a ceremonial gateway, surmised to be of timber, that cremation was practiced in those days, that the temple was concerned with sky worship, that its entrance was aligned to sunrise at the summer solstice in June 22, that the markings around the temple suggest that it was an observatory for studying the timings of the rising and setting of the sun and moon and probably of the planets as well, that most Christian churches are also astronomically oriented, that the 56 Aubrey holes could have been used as a counting device for predicting significant risings of the moon and eclipses of the moon and sun, and that there is a 16 feet high stone standing just outside the temple entrance in the avenue. Since the Encyclopedia Britannica confesses that the nature of the religion practiced in those ancient times in England is not known, let us suggest that the research findings regarding the Stonehenge as noted in the encyclopedia fit in foursquare with Hinduism alone. Before dilating on other evidence, therefore, let us first deal with what the encyclopedia itself has stated. At the remote age of 1800 to 1400 BC, surmised for the Stonehenge civilization by the encyclopedia, Hinduism was the only flourishing religion known to the world. As a matter of fact, the Hindu epics, namely the Mahabharata and Ramayana, and Hinduism's basic scriptures, the Vedas, reach back in that order into an unfathomably remote antiquity. So, considering the era of the Stonehenge civilization, Hinduism alone seems to fit in quite well. Hindus alone are known to connect temples by road with rivers, as was the Stonehenge temple with Avon River. The processional route also indicates the Hindu custom of taking divine idols in procession for immersion in rivers. The river name Avon may as well be the corrupt form of the Sanskrit term Arun, meaning the red yearly morning sun. This inference seems plausible from the fact that the Druids, means Dravids, gather even now at the Stonehenge temple at solstices at the break of dawn to invoke the sun. The tradition of polishing surfaces of stones is very common in Bharat too. Scores of such temples have massive square pillars with large disc-shaped polished surfaces to reflect holy dances performed at temples. These may be seen at Helbid and other historic places in South India. The slaughter stone is reminiscent of the Bharatiya warrior tradition of slaughtering goats or buffaloes. The Stonehenge temple entrance was so aligned as to admit of the sun's direct rays on June 22, the summer solstice. In Bharat, the homeland of the Hindus, there are ever so many temples in places like Kolhapur and Jaipur, the entrances of which are mathematically designed to let in the sun's rays directly on the central idol on particular days of dharmic significance, as was the case with the Stonehenge temple. Bharat, the homeland of the Hindus, alone can boast of numerous structures made out of stone and machinery, for astronomical markings may still be seen well maintained in cities like Jaipur, Ujjain and New Delhi. in Bharat. What is more, the ancient Hindu astronomical tower in New Delhi, called the Qutub Minar, belongs practically to the same era as the Stonehenge Observatory in England. That 238 feet high Hindu tower in New Delhi had 27 constellation temples around it, which the Muslim invader Kutubuddin raised. Obviously, the Stonehenge too had similar temples as noted by the Encyclopedia Britannica. Bharat stands alone in world history of that remote age in laying special emphasis on a lunar calendar and meticulous astronomical observations woven intricately with the day-to-day lives of the entire citizenry by calling upon it to observe certain dharmic rites, undertake charities and undergo purificatory baths on eclipses, new moon days, fast on the 11th lunar day, means Ekadashi, of every fortnight, etc. Such meticulous study and notings of celestial bodies find prominent in all Hindu literatures, starting from the ancient-most Vedas. A very important link between the ancient Hindu observatories of New Delhi and the Stonehenge in England is provided by the GMT practice of regarding midnight as the 0 hour. Looking at human affairs, the practice of setting the clock and marking the beginning of a new date from the midnight hour appears very quaint because no one likes to be disturbed in sound sleep at that hour. How then does the English calendar plump for that inconvenient hour? The explanation is found in the fact that since ancient England was a Hindu country, all its elite adopted the practice of locking and clocking their time on the sunrise time in Bharat, which marked the start of the Hindu day. Since the difference between the Bharatiya and English time is 5.5 hours, England's midnight coincides with Bharat's sunrise time, approximately at 5:30 am. Likewise, Bharat's New Year Day, which according to the lunar calendar approximate to March 25, was also England's New Year Day until 1752 AD. The English word hour itself is a corrupt form of the Sanskrit word hora. At least 4 months of the English calendar still bear Sanskrit names such as September, October, November, December. These are explained in Sanskrit as Saptambar, Ashtambar, November and Dashambar, meaning respectively the 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th parts of the zodiac. They rank as 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th months respectively only when March, according to Hindu tradition, becomes the first month. This again confirms that the English and in fact that all of Europe calendar is based on the Hindu calendar. In Latin, two more names may be traced to the ancient Sanskrit Hindu calendar. These are Margio, which is Margashirsha, and Mago, which is Magha, means February. In Hindu Sanskrit terminology, current even today. From this, it should be quite clear to all those interested in ancient history that the world over, and especially in ancient Europe and in Great Britain, it was the Hindu calendar with Sanskrit names which was in vogue. This also incidentally proves that there was a day-to-day exchange of astronomical data between the Qutub Minar, alias Barha Mihir Observatory in New Delhi and the Stonehenge Observatory in England. Both had around them temples of sky worship and of the sun and the moon and masonry constructions with astronomical markings. Bharat Central Meridian, according to immemorial practice, passed through Delhi, Ujjain and Lanka. The famous Shiva shrine at Ujjain, called the Mahakaleshwara, had its Shiva stone placed so accurately as to be bisected by that meridian. In England too, some Shiva temple may have been consecrated exactly over the central meridian of England, so as to have the idol bathed in the direct rays of the summer solstice, particularly in June 22 rising sun. That the whole of ancient Europe used to practice the Hindu Shiva worship may be proved by two specific instances. Many Shiva stones, means shivlings, have been dug up in ancient Italy. Of those, a few are still on display in the Etruscan Museum in the Pope's Vatican in Rome. That it was also known by its Hindu Sanskrit names as Ais, alias S, alias Ishwar, is also recorded in the Encyclopedia Britannica under the heads Etruscan and Etruria. In support of my contention that ancient England also worshipped the Hindu god Shiva, represented by a block of stone in England's temple. I quote from a book titled Pilgrimage to Mecca, written by Lady Evelyn Cobold. On page 134 of that book, the author observes, quote, "The Muslims are not alone in venerating historic stones. One instance among countless is that of Jacob, who set up a stone as a memorial, and the kings of England are still crowned over the stone in Westminster Abbey, about which so many strange stories are woven to prove its ancient origin." Unquote. This is proof that the Westminster Abbey stands on the site of an ancient Shiva temple. And since Lord Shiva is associated with royal inaugurals and funerals, the practice of burying the high and mighty in the abbey came into vogue. In this context, we may recall the encyclopedia observation quoted previously that, quote, "most Christian churches are astronomically oriented," unquote. I have already proved earlier that according to ancient Hindu practice, which continues to be in vogue in our own age, all temples have to be astronomically oriented. Ancient Christian churches being astronomically oriented without apparent justification for it in Christian theology is proof enough that they were Hindu temples. That the Bharatiya Vedas used to be recited in those temples before they were overrun by Christianity is proved by the word Psalm, Psalm, pronounced as Psalm, Sam. That word derives from the Psalm Veda. Psalms are still recited in churches, but the Sanskrit Vedic Psalm, while retaining its original name, has been supplanted by Christian hymns. A further indication is that in biblical tradition, David is mentioned as the author of many psalms. From this, it is apparent that David refers to Dravid priests who composed and sang Vedic hymns. These Dravids still survive in modern Britain as Druids. And like Dravids, in fact, like all Hindus in Bharat, they still invoke the sun god to energize their intelligence. Their chant is almost an exact translation of the Hindu Gayatri mantra, the holy invocation to the sun in Sanskrit, which is recited in every Orthodox Hindu household. The traditional assertion that all Englishmen and in fact all Europeans and many other world communities besides are Aryans is essentially a remembrance of their having been Hindus. As is generally misunderstood, Arya is no race but is the Hindu way of life. Had the term Arya signified a race, it would not have included people as wildly different from one another in color, facials and stature as Iranians, Europeans and even including native Indians. They are known as Aryans because they were all Sanatani Hindus. In Bharat, Arya Dharma, Sanatan Dharma and the Vedic way of life are all synonyms for Hinduism. This should make it plain that when Englishmen and others claim to be Aryans, they carry with them the memory of having been Hindus. Another little detail also fits in foursquare with the above findings, namely that as in Bharat, the Dravids form a part of the bigger Hindu community alias Aryan community. In England too, the Druids alias Dravids form part of the English Aryans, that is to say of the ancient Hinduism in England. It is these same Druids alias Dravids who still continue the ancient Hindu tradition of chanting the hymn to the sun god, which is called Gayatri Mantra in Sanskrit, in its English translation at the ancient Hindu Stonehenge temple at the break of dawn on June 22 in the summer solstice, while the rest of the English Aryans, means Hindus now turned Christians, are blissfully unaware of their Hindu past. Another very strong indication is that the English termination share, shire, is a correct form of the Sanskrit word shwar, shwar. That is to say, as we have in Bharat townships consecrating ancient Shiva temples known as Trambakeshwar, Lankeshwar, Mahabaleshwar, Grahamukteshwar, Mahakaleshwar, etc. Exactly in the same way, we have in England ancient Shiva temple sites still known by their ancient terminations like Lancashire, Pembrokeshire, Hampshire, and Wiltshire, etc. Likewise, the termination Bury, Bury, in English township, as in Salisbury, Waterbury, Canterbury, etc., is the ancient Sanskrit term Puri, Pury, reminiscent of the times when England was a Hindu country. In Bharat and in Siam, which was also a Hindu country, we still have townships known as Sudamapuri, Krishnapuri, and Cholpuri, etc. In Siam, it is Cholburi and Rajpuri. The fancied English name Salisbury is Sanskrit, being Shaileshpuri means township of the mountain god Lord Shiva, obviously indicating that Salisbury is located in a hilly region. This can be physically verified with reference to current or ancient topographical maps. The Wiltshire area in which is located the Stonehenge obviously indicates the existence there of an ancient Shiva temple, as is apparent from its shire, Shire ending, meaning Ishwar, means Lord Shiva. Salisbury's hilly topography is also proof that it is a corrupt form of the Sanskrit term Shaileshpuri, exactly signifying a hilly area and a Hindu temple. This is a very tiny but a very significant pointer to the Hindu heritage of ancient England. A parallel can be cited in distant Malaysia, where the town Shanghai Patni is Sanskrit Sringapatan, means a mountain town, and Petaling Jaya is Spatik Linga Jayan, means the great crystal or white Shivalinga, now unfortunately turned into a mosque. If archaeological excavations are undertaken around Petaling Jaya's ancient-most mosque, it is bound to prove the mosque to be a Shiva temple. We may now consider the origin of the word England itself. To trace its Sanskrit origin, let us first note that the Sanskrit word Granthi continues to be spelled in English as gland. Similarly, the word stand, as in lampstand, is the Sanskrit word sthan, means place. This indicates that the Sanskrit termination nth or than has changed into and in English. Let us now go back to the ancient atlas in which the ancient Hindus designated their own land as Sindhustan. In English, it is Indus land. And other countries as Afghanistan, Baluchistan, Turkestan, modern Turkey, and Orbistan, modern Arabia. Likewise, they had designated the English Isles as Anglastan, a name still used in Sanskrit. That Angla, not English, was the original Sanskrit name of the English people, may be verified from the terms Angles and Anglo-Saxons and Anglais used by the French people. Therefore, Anglastan became Anglaland, which in modern parlance has changed to England. From this, it is apparent that Britain is the corrupt form of the Sanskrit term Brihatstan, and the words British and Britannic, which have the same origin, are Sanskrit terms. Brihatstan signifies the Great Isles, but forgetting the original Sanskrit significance of the term Britain meaning big or great isles, English usage mistakenly repeats the adjective in terming their land Great Britain. This has also happened elsewhere in the world. The ancient Hindu had named the river Nile, some people call it Nile, in Egypt to mean blue, but over the centuries, with its Hindu Sanskrit tradition forgotten, the Egyptians, mistaking the term Nile as some mysterious, unmeaning proper name, added the adjective blue, calling their river as Blue Nile. ये ऐसा है जैसे ऐसे बोलना कि लाल रेड रिवर और येलो पीला रिवर, ये अननेसेसरी है. By the way, towns and other localities ending in ton, or stone, ston, as in Sreshton, Humpton, Kessington, etc., denote the Sanskrit termination sthan. Sreshton, from the derivation explained earlier, obviously Ishwar Sthan, means a temple, place or township of Lord Shiva. Therefore, it is no wonder that English towns bear Sanskrit names when the English language itself is replete with Sanskrit. The English language abounds in Sanskrit words and expressions, precisely because in the ancient times, when Britons were all Hindus, they spoke Sanskrit. They recited stanzas or psalms from the Vedas and used Sanskrit for all spiritual and mundane purposes. The word saint is nothing but the Sanskrit sant, means sadhu. The word mass, as in Christmas and Michaelmas, is the Sanskrit word mass, meaning month, in which occur the celebration of Christ or Michael. An additional indication of this is the current English honorific sir. From lack of touch with Sanskrit for nearly 2000 years, Britons confused and misjoined the two consonant and vowel Sri arrangement as one consonant, then vowel and the other consonant as sar. Another piece of evidence indicating that ancient Britons were all Hindus is found in their medical terms, which derives from the Hindu medical system, the Ayurveda. Take the term hiccups, which is hikka in Sanskrit. Heart derives from hardi, means heartfelt in Sanskrit. Dentistry is danta shastra. Hydrocephalia is adra kapal or ardha kapal. Osteomalacia is from asthi, means bones getting malign, means spoiled or bad. The term cough is the Hindu Sanskrit term with the same pronunciation but a slightly different meaning, namely that in Sanskrit it signifies fame. That ancient Britons had their other textbooks also in Sanskrit is indicated by the term trigonometry, which is Sanskrit trigunamatra, means three-dimensional measurement. That the ancient Britons spoke Sanskrit is apparent from words like sun and shani, which derive from Sanskrit sunah. Likewise, navigability is a pure Sanskrit compound, navi gaman bal iti. All words terminating in ability, as in perceivability, ability, palatability, advisability, or probability, etc., are Sanskrit bal iti, meaning having the power to or capacity for. Sanskrit hanta, hantarav, hantarah may be compared with hunt, hunter, hunting in English. Similarly, widow, widower derived from Sanskrit vidhva and vidhur. The term Sakshan is corrupt from the Sanskrit term Shakasunah, meaning the son or progeny of the Hindu Shaka clan. All this amounts to overwhelming evidence that, contrary to current belief, Britain has a hoary history. The statement that when the Romans landed in Britain, Britons were uncivilized may be true, if at all only in a very limited sense, namely that at that particular point in history, ancient prosperous Britain may have been reduced to destitution and ignorance due to invasions or natural calamities. If British history can be traced to only about 500 years back with any degree of coherence, that is because Christianity succeeded in almost obliterating the pre-Christian history of England, exactly as Islamic fanaticism made the Arabs wipe out their pre-Muslim history. But the clues provided in this episode may help us to trace back the history of England to several centuries before even the Roman invasion. Such an endeavor will also throw new light on the ancient history of other countries of Europe and of Bharat. It is hoped that interested scholars will address themselves to this new line of research. Jai Sri Radhe, Har Har Mahadev.